Rightio everybody, so we today have Scott versus Adam. Scott playing his Andy deck versus Adam playing the newly revealed Tira. So this will be quite interesting. Again, obviously I had a game against Scott a few weeks ago when he was playing his Andy, so it's really cool to see this. So it's good to be able to see it now actually getting played for everyone on Twitch and stuff. On top of that as well, obviously Adam playing out Tira, it'll be really interesting to see how he's built this deck. Just out of the fact that it's literally just been revealed like yesterday, I think. So let's see how this goes out. Obviously both characters pretty low in the health. Andy with 20, Tira 2 dot with the 19. Now what we're going to do is just fire this as best I can, probably about that. So Tira's got an enhance on your attack, commit 1 foundation, gain 1 vitality, and your opponent loses 1 vitality. And the response, which is after you play a combo ability, ready this character, and your opponent commits 1 foundation. That's playable or committed. So it is pretty cool. It's quite nice to see stuff like that getting played out. It'll be quite interesting to see how this works out. I've got a feeling probably off of death maybe. It'll be interesting to see what they do. It might do what I think a lot of people are talking about it online and stuff like that. Obviously it's like possibly the perfect spirit shotgun deck. Like character kind of thing, because it's like shares all 3 symbols and all this sort of stuff, so it's going to be able to play a lot of attacks on that kind of lineup, which is quite nice. So this will be quite interesting to see how this plays out. The other thing I'm going to do is fire this on to the chat. See if I can do that now. Switch that one. Delete that up. So we'll see how it goes. So as a home and away game for this one, I think Adam starts, if I'm right. So not too bad there. Right, I'm just going to fire one last thing onto the chat, and then let's see what they play out. Rightio, let's get firing into this properly then. So obviously Adam plays out his first turn, gets a spiritual connection, bird of death, police connections, filled with the master. So now we've got Scott going in for sense of morals, now playing out a White House. So White House is a pretty solid card right now within the meta. And then obviously going into leading the team. And is he passing there? Passing there, so not as an alright build. 2 foundations asset to Adam's 4 foundations. Now the cool thing is we'll be able to figure out kind of what symbol he's probably playing off of. So it'll be off of good is what he'll be playing this off of. Unless he's splashing potentially, but I doubt it. I don't really know Adam to splash characters, symbols and stuff, so this will be quite cool. So it's let's see what he does. I wonder if he's actually going for a bit of a Mitsurugi kind of build. I wonder how this is going to play out actually. This will be interesting now. As I say, I think a lot of people have obviously been talking about these kind of this card and what it's going to be playing, but there's a Spear Ryu which kind of leading me to believe it's maybe a bit of Takeda / Mitsurugi potentially. This will be quite interesting. So gets the pass and the check on Spear Ryu, obviously with the ability to look at the top card of the deck, may discard it or add it to the card pool in any order, and he can't use the combo enhance yet, but pretty decent goings, so we'll see what he does. Obviously there's a good couple of interactions. Andy's interactions are quite cool, as I say. So Andy has a response which is add one or more after one or more foundations are added to the staging area, this attack is +1 speed and +1 speed and +1 damage, or -1 speed, -1 damage. There we go. Also it's got twice per turn, you can destroy a foundation to build top down and stuff like that. So the interaction there for Scott really comes down to really relying on Andy as such to basically pop foundations and give that -1/-1 kind of stuff to be able to make sure things are blockable and all that sort of stuff. And at the end of the day, he can happily destroy some of these things as well, because the replacement as such is pretty useful. So let's see what he does. So there he goes. He destroys the first foundation, so he's doing the enhance, and then he builds the top one, which is then going to be able to trigger the response. So pretty awesome going. Gives it the -1/-1. Right, and then that's what. And then you could commit, obviously, after a card is added to your staging area during the combat phase, you could draw a card if he does that as well. on the commit for Whitehouse. So, good couple of interactions straight off the bat, which is quite cool that way. Interesting to see what Adam now does. Obviously, this is more of a setup for an attack, as obviously he wants to try and trigger off the combo abilities. Now, Scott just going straight in for a pretty solid block. What's that on a 4 passes? All good there. So a fairly decent block. Now Adam goes into his next attack with Shiai Ryu Kan. So obviously he's going to be able to do the combo on this one, which is add 1 card from your discard pile at the top of your deck, and this attack is plus 3 speed or plus 3 damage. So that's pretty decent stuff. So what are they doing there? Yeah, so he commits a foundation. I think that's what he's doing to make. Is that what he's done? Yeah, that's what he's done. Yeah. He commits Tira. Right, okay, I see what he's done there. Pretty solid. Yeah, because you cannot. So it's been interesting to see what they do. So I think, yeah, let's see what they're doing now. So the next part of that was after he plays the combo ability, which he just does. Scott has to then commit a foundation. So that's a pretty solid play for it, obviously. Pretty decent. That's quite cool, actually. I really like that interaction. So we'll just have to see. So obviously as well, at the same time as this combo, he adds the card to the pool from the discard pile at the top of the deck. So he stacks that 5 check and gives it 3 speed. So now it's going to get to that kind of stage. Oh no, he's giving it damage. Is it? Yep, yeah, he's giving it damage, so it's fine. Gives it damage, so it's now 4 high for 6. That's fine. Cool. So Scott then uses Sense of Morals and gets the nice 5 check on it and readies up the face down. Obviously he's got the option where he could potentially blow up that face down and then build another one. There's some options, but then again he might just have decent blocks for this, especially because it's only like what 4 high, extra card and pull. I bet it takes the hit. Okay. Yeah, so yeah, kind of sussed this from the start. Once we figured out the symbol, goes for the kind of Mitsurugi Takeda style of the attack kind of run. So that's quite cool. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Pretty decent to have figured that one out. That's pretty obvious kind of goings for the symbol, but it's going to be pretty effective at the end of the day. There's so much combo in that symbol. So again, does the same thing with Tira. Commit a foundation, so you can commit Tira as a foundation, commits it, and then gains a vitality which is at max, but Scott will still lose 1. That's then obviously just going to allow him then to be able to use the combo ability to ready a backup and then have Scott commit a foundation. And at the end of the day, Scott only has 2 foundations in play, so the ultimate kind of goal on that one really is the fact that he's going to have to keep checking Sense of Morals and stuff like that. But again, he's blown it up. He's going to then build and then trigger off for -1/-1. So fairly decent play out of that one. Obviously at this point, I think Adam gave it the damage. Add up to 1 for yep. So he gave it the damage. So from the first combo, because obviously it's got 2 different combos. If he really wanted to, he could add up to 1 card from the card pool to staging face down. But he's not really in any necessary need to do that, since he can do the other combo and stuff like that. So that's quite interesting stuff. So he does build, and he does I believe he's going to do the stun too. And he does. And that's then when he built. So, right, that's pretty interesting goings. So, Scott then just does the check, passes it. So, pretty fair play to Scott there. Obviously didn't trigger the Sense of Morals early, knowing that the stun 2 was going to be a thing. So, obviously blew up the committed one, stuff like that. So, pretty decent going. Scott though comes in for a nice block. So again, this is a 3 mid, and he's going to be blocking on a 5. Does get a full block, hits him with a breaker too. Now Adam's definitely got enough foundations ready where he could, if he has other attacks, could still go forward, but elects down to play on a 6. And passes. Did he commit it? I feel as if I missed something there. Might have committed the police connection. I might have missed that one. We'll find out though later on. So Scott gets rid of the, what's that called again? Skull Fortress 2. So this is the kind of card he splashes for. But is pretty useful, as you can clearly see the fact he plays Scarlet Meteors. It's one of those ones where you can splash for it, but you can just find it as such. So it's pretty decent goings. On top of being able to use that sort of stuff. So that's cool in itself. So as I say, this one here, it's like allies get +1 and all this sort of stuff, and then you can then respond to build more. Like if he checks the allies and he builds more and stuff, it's awesome. So again, he's going straight in for the Scarlet Meteor, which just means that we are probably seeing that face down getting destroyed to build that Skull Fortress 2, potentially, depending on if there's anything else better in play. So let's find out what he goes for. This will be interesting. Ultimate interactions for Adam. I'm not too sure if he's got many on it, but Scott's going to go for, obviously, I think he's just going to do the destroy one foundation first. So, destroys the face down, and then destroys the face down. He's then going to search. He might search for something else, but yeah, I did think the Skull Fortress 2 was going to be the pick, more than likely, from that one. So again, now we get a wee quick chance to read it as well, which is just after one or more of your foundations are destroyed, you reveal the top card of your deck, and if it's an ally, you can add it to the staging face down. So, as I say, the ultimate thing of Scott's deck here is that he does play a lot of ally cards. So the idea is obviously triggers off with Andy to destroy a foundation, to allow him to build stuff, and basically from there, then is able to potentially build even more than he would naturally, sort of thing. So it's a pretty decent setup. So we'll see what he does though. Let's see, so he's popping it, then he reveals, and if it's an ally, he gets to build it, which I'm pretty sure that one is an ally, if I'm 100% sure. So, gets that to trigger, then that then responds with Andy, so he's now got the extra, then he builds, and then he responds with Andy. It's fairly decent how fast some of these attacks will get, and how fast he's going to be building those extra wee foundations. So from having 2 foundations to basically rotating to 2 foundations as such is not too bad, because it's overall netted on 3 speed out of this. So it's pretty decent goings. So let's see how he does this. This will be quite cool. Obviously now this is like 8 high 8. So there's some options for Adam out there, I guess. Like obviously, like if he does that, he could obviously Bakery Poster Child at some point later in the turn. But right now he might have to just take the hit, maybe. I wonder. It just depends what he's got in hand. He's got enough where he could pass a check, but it will be interesting stuff to see what he does play out. Yeah, and he takes the hit. He's probably going to respond with Spiritual Connections though, more than likely, which he does. So Spiritual Connections gets flipped after he takes damage, and Scott then has to play a non-attack card as his next form. So he plays out a Sense of Moral, so he kind of just baits it out, which is fair enough, and then goes straight into another attack. So he's going for a Moon Ritual Dance. So here's where some of the 2 checks come into play, but again, so on a 4-5, checks a 3, not too bad. So he's got a couple of options from this. This is a 7 low for 2 damage, right? But obviously with Andy being able to trigger and stuff like that, and things like Skull Fortress 2 being out and stuff, the actual damage of this can go up pretty fast as well. On top of that, obviously, it's also for the fact that he does actually gauge his Andes a few times to pick out some stuff. So it's quite interesting stuff. So add 1 card with a printed difficulty X or less from your discard pile, and obviously the X is equal to number of characters. So he just gets like boom, yeah, he actually had a Shadow of the Cowboy out. Pretty solid, didn't see that in the discard. Decent card to pick up. So it gets added, he responds with Andy. Now obviously he's got Andy's actual foundation, which is after it's destroyed you build the top card of the deck face down. So now this attack itself, from being like a 7 low 2 damage, can actually spike in damage pretty drastically now. So this will be really interesting to see how this plays out. So let's see what else they do. So I think yeah, so he's doing the twice per turn to destroy a foundation. Let's see. So he destroys one of the face downs, and then he responds as an ally. So he gets to build that from the response off of Skull Fortress. Gets the +1/+1. Then builds a foundation. Responds for +1/+1. So already this is now 10 low, 5 damage. And then he does post Baker Girl. So, only playable if he's played 3 or more enhances this combat phase. And obviously he pops it, and it's going to go to the speed of 0 now. Okay, this will be interesting to see. So now it's extremely blockable. So I think, what are they doing now? I'm wondering if they're counting out how many enhances got played or not. Nope, they're maybe just talking it through. Going straight into the block step. Obviously needs to block on a 0 and it's fairly decent. Gets a block out of it. Now it was just interesting to see what Scott does now. Goes in for a lead in the team. So at this point, yep, he's probably just going to build a few extra wee pieces and pass his turn. But he gets like a sense of morals down. He gets another lead in the team. Bit tough that he had to kind of bait out the bakery poster child. So we'll see what he does. So at this point now, Adam doesn't have a lot of the defensive pieces in play as such anymore. He's just got stuff that kind of interacts with when he does the attacks from Fooled by the Master and Bird of Death. Yeah, because I think Bird of Death might not be the most interesting of things that he can play out at this point. Simply the commit. After he plays a combo ability, freezes one of your opponent's foundations. It's not too bad if he can do it, but the problem is Scott's got a sense of morals. So it might be tough to see that same card potentially staying frozen, obviously, and committed at that point. So this will be interesting stuff. Obviously he plays out a Shia Ryu Kan. Again, another one of these, it's just one of the kind of setups. Got reversal, got weapon. Weapon's the major thing for this deck, clearly, which is what he wants to trigger off of. So Scott just takes the hit as Adam doesn't have any interactions as such. But now he comes in for, what's that now called? This menu, I'm going to fucking butcher this one. This minuet. Let's say it's that. Probably butchering that, guys. But he does check, so he then needs a 6, checks a 5, commits one of the face downs. Now this is obviously Tira's new attack that comes with her. So the combo enhance is both going to be able to be used. That's just pretty cool. So for the rest of the turn, after he gains vitality due to an effect, he may draw a card and discard a card. So he starts doing a little bit of hand filter now. So that's pretty awesome in itself. This card is really quite cool. On top of that, the fact it's a 4 low for 8 damage. The other part of the combo enhance is commit a foundation. For the rest of the turn, this card doesn't count towards progressive. So this will be super interesting to see how much this gets really used. Obviously it's not hitting for lethal yet, but at the end of the day he commits Tira, gains the vitality, and Scott loses one, so now it's lethal. So it's a 4 low for lethal. So pretty damaging stuff again at the end of the day. Scott had a couple of outs still for the fact that, yeah, he's probably going to blow up his Shadow of a Cowboy. Simply down to the fact he's going to maybe be able to get as many triggers as possible on giving that -1 speed, -1 damage. That's probably a solid out at this point. Since itself it will build 2 and he might get lucky and be able to Skull Fortress potentially a 3rd out. So this will be quite touch and go as such. So Adam does commit a foundation for it. So it is also now not going to count towards progressive. So it's just making Adam's turn a wee bit easier for the rest of the attacks, especially if he has a second one in play. That'll be pretty good. Let's see. So the dice and on top of it is just to signal the fact that it doesn't count towards progressive, just so people don't get confused. It's not actually a speed rating. So now he does with Bird of Death after the combo. Is that what he's doing? Oh, no, he's destroying a foundation to gain a life. Nice. So that obviously that then triggers the actual attack and he can draw and discard. So that's pretty solid. So Bird of Death is doing its work now. So he draws a card, discards, and overly dramatic. Yeah, fair dues. At this point it's pretty safe to see where he's going. So at this point Scott then sends some morals and readies up the Shadow of a Cowboy. Now, at this point I'm wondering what else Adam can do. So they just go straight to the block step, and Scott's then blocking this on a 6. Checks a 5, commits Shadow of a Cowboy, and passes, and he'll take 4. So he goes down to 4, so this will be interesting. What Adam plays next. A tiny bit of me says he might have another one, potentially, if there's no responses to go from Scott. He doesn't have another one yet, at least, but he does have a Takeda's Kunai, which now needs to have 5 to pass, and he does check a 3, so he has to commit 2 for it. So kinda a wee bit rough. That was probably the worst check he would probably have to have dealt with. I think 3 checks are the lowest in the deck. So it does. Let's see what it does. So it loses a life. Did it do it from that? So Scott pops Shadow of a Cowboy, reveals the first card when the response from Skull Fortress 2, checks an ally, builds it, gives it -1/-1. Then he's going to build another foundation from Andy that then gives it -1/-1. And Shadow of the Cowboy's actual effect triggers as well, which gives him another one. So it's -3/-3 overall from that. That's like the perfect kind of play out for this, to the point where this attack in itself is now doing no damage. It's now literally 1 low for 0 damage. Gets the stun combo off on it, had the 2 damage, so now it's got back to now just -1 damage to it now, so it's now at 2 damage. Slowly edging there, this is quite intense actually. So obviously gets the stun off, does all the stuff. Let's see what else he can do. I think at this point, yeah, interesting stuff. This will be interesting to see what happens now at this point. Obviously, it's pretty blockable if he's got the right block for it, which he doesn't, but he's going to obviously block this to just take 1. Oh, this is intense. So this is more of a fact Adam could go for that risky last attack, potentially, if he has one in hand, but the average of his attacks looks to be, I think, 4 is about the lowest it's going, so 4, 5, 6, if he checks a 5 it would be good. If he's got any more attacks left in hand. This is pretty intense now to see what he does. That being said though, it's if he gets another couple of if he got another attack out, it'd probably be game anyway. Because Scott's kind of struggling on the low blocks right now, so he might have to start holding some maybe. So let's see what they do. He does go in for an attack, so obviously this is the one, so he needs to check like a 5, because it's going to be on a 4, 5, 6. Does check a 6 and it automatically passes. This potentially seals Scott's fate a little bit, depending on what he has in hand. So Scott commits Tira, gains a vitality, and Scott loses a vitality, and Scott concedes there. Yeah, that's pretty rough. That was pretty rough going. Right, quick takeaways while we have a second to talk. So Scott's builds were pretty rough, I would say, is probably the nicest way to put it at that point. I don't think he got the greatest of builds straight off the bat, where Adam was able just to kind of force through some checks a wee bit kind of more consistently, even when he did check the few odd bad cards. So that was pretty rough going. See if they notice that he's got 2 more cards to go. There we go. So yeah, pretty rough there. Tira was really effective. I think this is the thing as well, with a lot of combo characters existing now. The whole Mitsurugi 2-dot combo with all the Takeda stuff like that, I think it's just gave them all a new home, which is nice as well. Like, I think so many combo characters can be a thing now, where it is pretty decent. Obviously that whole being able to commit her to gain the vitality and then losing 1 stuff, that's pretty decent. That's pretty good. So now Scott goes into his build turn. He builds a Sense of Morals first, goes for a Confronting Jada. That would have been a perfect card for him to have seen earlier on. That is also another card that he was definitely not seeing earlier on, was Kirin Souls, but he does fail that check sadly, which is a bit rough. But those were that's definitely key pieces that he did not see in the last game. Obviously he was relying heavily on Andy, and it was doing him well. It just happened to be, I think Adam had just too many attacks in that run specifically. So now we get to see what Adam can do. So Scott's built 2. Again, not the greatest of builds. Just depending on what Adam comes out with. So Pride of Shiai Ryu, overly dramatic, Persona Vendetta. What's that one? Most Trusted Assassins. And Daughter of the Bladed Rod does fail though. But yeah, a decent build of 4 to that build of 2. This kind of like has similar veins to what happened. That being said though, Adam does not have the defensive pieces as such this time around. The only one he really does have would be overly dramatic, as the rest are really more to do with him attacking, and then obviously a wee bit of defense if he gets any kind of debuild or anything happening. But in this specific game I don't see it as much of a thing, so it's interesting to see what happens here. So Scott needs a 4, checks a 3, commits Sense of Morals for Moon Ritual Dance. So obviously this is the 7 low for 2. He's going to be able to do the Enhance to add a card from the discard pile to hand. Just gives him some pickup sometimes. I don't know what's really there just yet, so it might not be super useful just yet, but any card is better than nothing. Obviously then the gauge might be able to trigger if Adam's not blocking this or whatever, and ultimately that's one of those kind of decent ideas as well. The gauging of Andy of this deck's pretty funny and pretty useful as well, just out of the fact that the Salinka stuff he does play is fairly decent. So let's see, so at this point Adam does the lose a vitality, next check he'll get for an attack, he'll get -1. Okay, so again a wee bit of premonition potentially if he's going to have to deal with it, and then he flips the Pride of the Shiai Ryu and builds a momentum. Just a matter of seeing what Scott does at this point. See, the problem is with this as well is I'm not entirely sure if Scott can really afford to blow up a foundation at this point yet. He definitely needs to see those Sense of Morals staying in play, but again the gauge will trigger as Adam takes the 2 damage. So gets to stack the first of the 4 Andys, trying to get the play set. Shuffles his decks, he's not checked one yet, and continues. So again, if he plays an attack it'll be at -1. Other than that he might just continue building foundations maybe. This will be interesting stuff. Obviously he has to hold a couple of cards for definite. Don't think he can allow Adam to get a decent attack run the way he did in the last round. So interesting to see what he does. So let's see. So goes for a Sense of Morals, needs a 3, all good there. Goes for a Honky Tonk Woman, checks an Andy and is all good there. Goes for a Shadow of the Cowboy and is all good there. So definitely, right, he's catching up now. He's 100% now, seeing the pieces as well, like for definite. A Kirin Soul or 2 would have been pretty useful, but at the end of the day, if Adam plays an attack and Scott doesn't do it, and that Honky Tonk Woman is getting that Kirin Soul put in play anyway. So he's got obviously the setup to have a fairly decent board state, so not too bad there. Adam is same, still has his 4 foundations, has 1 pretty solid defensive piece and overly dramatic, and can tinker with obviously the Most Trusted Assassin to mess about with Scott's attack runs, so pretty decent there. So here we go, Adam going in for an attack run. Goes for a Bamboo Blind Slice, so again this is the reversal weapon, combo's not going to be a thing, and he can discard the momentum and add 1 other card from the card pool to your stationary face down, and it's after your opponent plays an attack you remove it. So pretty solid stuff there. So yeah, Scott does what we think he was going to do, flips Honky Tonk Woman, has a Kirin Soul. So at the end of the day we know that's then going to be there for a future turn. We don't expect, well we would hope that we don't expect somebody to just completely bulldoze, but it'll be interesting to see what Adam's got in hand, because it could definitely happen. Now obviously that Kirin Soul gets added, so -1/-1 to this attack. So obviously just all these wee interactions all trigger heavily with Andy, to the point where he doesn't have a lot of defensive pieces, but most of these pieces come out and obviously Andy's able to trigger, and with Andy triggering as such, I mean this is now 3 mid for 4, but he's got a fairly decent block on a 5 check and he's all good with a full block. Now the real question will be, has he got a reversal? He does not have a reversal, and Adam continues with the Ibis Minuet. Minuet. I'm going to pronounce that at some point. I'm going to have to get Alexa to tell me how to say that word. Alright, let's see. So he does check a 3, commits 3 for it, but he has got the options now for the combo enhances and stuff like that. So this is just one of these kind of big beefy attacks. So he commits Tira, he's going to gain a vitality, and Scott's then going to lose one, I think. Does the combo enhance as well? Gains vitality, so I'm assuming you get the combo first. Then he's doing that one. Ah, right, I think he was about to do it out of turn. Ah, right, okay. I think what happened there was he went to do it and then did it round the other way first, I think. I think that's what happened there. Because then he would have comboed it. Committed. Aye. That assumption, that's what happened, I think. So I think what he did was he did the... For the rest of the turn, you would gain a vitality. I think he's done that already. Because I don't know what he committed, other than the fact that if he would have committed Tira, played it, responded, readied her up, then committed it again. I'm not too sure. That one got away from us. So Scott does, though, accept to blowing up Shadow of a Cowboy and builds 2, so hits it with another -2 overall. So ultimately we do know that, yeah, I think he's done all the enhances off of, he's done all the combo enhances for sure, and he's definitely done the response plus Tira's commit as well, I think. So goes into a block step. Obviously it's 4 low, which is now 2 low. Needs a 5 to partial and takes 4. Or takes, no, it doesn't even take 4, it takes even less, what we're kidding, because the attack's down to, it takes 3. Takes a wee bit less. So at this point, I wonder how many low blocks Scott is running in this deck, or how much it relies on Kirin Soul per se, for instance. But another attack is coming his way, with an exploding flame roar this time. So it's a weapon combo, weapon attack, so obviously it's going to be able to trigger well. So pretty decent going. So the combo enhance, he can get +6 damage on it, and all this sort of stuff. So he does do the, let's see, so he commits Tira. I'm pretty sure he's done that. Did he do that? He committed Tira. Should Scott have lost a life? I kind of wish I had the game chat for this one, to be honest, guys. So he's gave it the 6 damage for definite. Just wondering what he did there. So he's committed it, and then so he's committed Tira. So Scott should be losing a life here. Right, that's fine. So Scott loses a life. We're all good. So it'll be interesting to see what he does. Obviously, then the Ibis triggers, and he can draw a card, discard a card. So a wee bit of hand filter. On top of that, Sense of Morals goes off, and he readies up. He's got the exploding flame roar that he does the stun 2. And is he electing to build something? We'll find out. Probably best now to build something for sure. Yep, builds the first card in the trick. Brings everything along. So pretty damaging stuff. A 4 mid for 12 damage. That's pretty rough at this point. So I wonder what Scott's going to do. So Scott's going to blow up a foundation to build something and give it -1/-1. So this just might make it a wee bit easier on the block step of things. As at least it's a mid, so I'm kind of hoping he's maybe got a couple more mids to go, but because he's got plenty of foundations, so this will be interesting stuff. Confronting Jada's not really going to be of much use just yet. It's down to the fact the speed's not really different enough, but there's a potential chance he has to trigger it. So I think he is. Yeah, he does have to trigger confronting Jada to get the extra -1 damage on it now. So I'm assuming this might be a partial block coming its way, which is why he's having to reduce it. Yeah, it's a high block coming in. Too high, so what's that? 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Checks a 4, 5, 6, 7. Is going to take half and take 5. That's pretty rough goings. But at the end of the day, he's not dead. So at the end of the day, fairly decent blocks in the road. Adam then playing a Bird of Death, going in for another a day without training, and it was all good. And builds 2 more momentum, so he's got his 2 momentum pretty decently there. Builds 3 overall, not too bad. So at this point though, Adam doesn't have very many defensive pieces out, so this could potentially be the turn in which Scott can bring it back a bit potentially. Obviously Adam can flip and discard a card and draw a card, and Bird of Prey potentially can obviously destroy a foundation to gain a vitality if it becomes that scary, but it'll be quite interesting just to see what Scott gets out. So let's find out. So he's starting with a Sense of Morals, which can still lead to attacks. And then he goes for a Wandering Pirate though. I've got a feeling he might not have the stuff, but he does have another Kirin Soul coming out. And another, and another Shadow of the Cowboy. Passes turn there. So, definitely built super defensive pieces. Adam reviews one before drawing back to 7. So, 2 Kirin Souls in play mean that 2 of these attacks are probably going to be fairly safe dealings with. A Wandering Pirate and 3 Sense of Morals means that a lot of the stun abilities that Adam does use aren't going to be as useful. So Adam does just go into building a Kirin Soul of himself, Beast Hunter, and then always forget this one again, Fooled by the Master. And looks like he's passing there. Yep, so he's passing there. Scott's reviewing a card. So at this point now though, Adam now has a Kirin Soul of his own. He's got a Overly Dramatic ready there to go, and he does have a Beast Hunter, which obviously is pretty useful on the response. After the second or greater copy of an attack's played, you can flip it. So definitely got some pretty epic defensive pieces out now to deal with. Interested to see how many cards left in hand. Should still have 4. So interesting stuff. Now it's just a matter of finding out which Scott's got. At this point I feel as if Scott maybe has to hold off until he knows he's got a fairly solid attack run. So does check sadly a 3, I think. What it says, is that the 3 or is that the 2? That's the 2. Checks the 2, needing a 5. It does commit the back row to let it pass. But again, he's going to be able to destroy foundations. This could potentially start to run away, down to the fact that so let's see what it destroys. So it destroys a honky tonk woman, one of the face downs anyway. He's going to be able to then build something which potentially, Skull Fortress 2, it was in the discard pile. So he does get Skull Fortress 2, where the mechanism now is going to start to kind of roll up a bit. So, don't think he gets that +1/+1 though, because he built a. I wonder if they notice. I don't think he gets that +1/+1. Just that for building the Skull Fortress, because it's after one or more foundations is built. But he is now. But again, mistakes can happen. At the end of the day, these are new. This is casual games and stuff like that. There's nobody to get burnt on a torch or anything for it. So he does first of all destroy the Shadow of Cowboy. Responds with Skull Fortress. Checked an ally, so he builds an ally. Builds another 2. So now this time's up at 4, so it really should be 8 high for 8, but with a wee mistake I think that they've made on the fact that the Skull Fortress shouldn't have been able to trigger Andy. Unless I missed something, but I'm pretty sure I didn't on that one. So, but they're going with it. I don't think anyone's noticed. They have got it set as 9 high for 9. And I think Adam's going to then do the flip, -1 speed and Kieran soul it, so that if he blocks it'll deal no damage. Yep, Kieran soul gets flipped, so it's going to get -1 speed, putting it down to 8 high for 9. So this will be interesting because this kind of means it's going to get blocked. I feel as if that's what's going to kind of happen at this point. So we'll have to see, because I think at this point Scott's done basically everything he can. So it really just comes down to what Adam does and then forces through a check potentially. So as I say, 8 on a 9. Checks a 3, needs to commit 6 things. So he does commit everything that he needs to. So it is blocked. Kieran soul triggered obviously, so it deals no damage. And he still has some fairly decent amount of defensive pieces with overly dramatic and with Beast Hunter. Beast Hunter probably being the main one right now. So we'll see what he does to continue. Goes for a United Kingdom of Smash. Checks a United Kingdom of Smash and is all good and passes that check. And passes turn. With Beast Hunter out, I think he's got to try and figure a way to kind of bait that out early potentially. This will be interesting stuff. Adam then reviews a card. Being a most trusted, draws back to 7. Scott has a lot of defensive pieces out with A2 Kirans, all the sense of morals. He can trigger for days with Andy, so this will be interesting. You still get United Kingdom of Smash. You can add some of these back to hand. Plenty of things in play right now. This is just pretty. This will be pretty intense as we go forward. So Adam just looking at what his face downs are. So I think we know that that's like a Kieran soul, but one of them I'm pretty sure is the attack. So obviously I think he's looking for the idea of things like, for instance, Beast Hunter also has a remove, which is after the combat phase begins, you can unflip up to 2 foundations. So it gives him some outs as well. Obviously if he doesn't think Scott's going to attack with multiple attacks and stuff like that, he might use it earlier than later and unflip some of the foundations to get some more use out of them. But we'll just have to see what happens. So we'll just have to see. I'm not too sure if they're having connection issues talking. No, I think they're back. So Adam is starting in with a Shiai Ryu Can. The 4 high for 3 damage, just to set up though. So he's going to flip Never a Day Without Training and discard a card and draw a card. So a wee bit of hand filter there potentially. Might just be wanting to find those extra attacks. He maybe has that. Probably means he has got at least a couple. So we will see what Scott can do at this point, because obviously at the same time as well, Scott could have lost life if he wanted to, for instance, to draw a card. But so he goes for Andy. He's going to pop a foundation, so he destroys one of the face downs, and then he's going to respond with Skull Fortress. Checks an ally, builds it, -1/-1, will trigger off of Andy. Then he builds another one for -1/-1, and that's his full deck. Nope. There we go. Hey! So he builds 2 off of that, gets the -2/-2. Obviously this means that it's now 2 high for 1 damage. So fairly restrictive of what it's going to be able to do. Be interesting, and yeah, I think he just takes the 1. So we can pretty much assume there's another attack coming in now, which there is. Bamboo Blind Slice is coming in on a 5. And he does check a 5, so he's all good. So at this point, he's got a combo enhanced, which could be the stun 2 for instance. So he commits, Tira gains a life and Scott loses a life. So we'll see what Scott does. I think Scott's eyeing up the idea of Kirin Soul early. Yeah, he does. So he's going to Kirin Soul. So at this point now, he gets -2 speed on this one, which is fairly decent. When he does the combo enhanced to give it stun 2, he then responds with Tira and readies her, and then Scott commits a foundation. So the stun 2 obviously triggers, and he's now going to just do a handful of sense of morals, now down to the fact he has 3. But I think on the stun 2, obviously he committed there's the stun 2 coming out. So just going through the sense of morals motions. Obviously that Tira made him commit 1. Yep, commits. Then he readies 1 up, so he's still got 1 that was from the stuns and stuff like that. So interesting stuff. Goes to the block step. Obviously just needs to block in general. So what's that? Needs a 4. And checks it, no damage, because it was Kirin sold. So perfect amount of defensive pieces. Now he goes in for a Takeda's Kunai on a 4, 5, 6. Checks a 5, commits 1 for it. Obviously this has got a pretty solid combo, which is going to be +2 damage and stun 2. Pretty decent there. The combo deadlock, I think 3, 6, 9, 10. The deadlock's obviously going to trigger as well. +1 speed for each of his committed foundations, so he can get +1 speed, but obviously he's going to want to do a couple of wee things. So he commits Tira, gains a life, Scott loses a life. Obviously he's going to be able to do that combo to give it +2 damage and stun 2, where he'll then be able to respond with Tira. So pretty decent. So Scott then checks a 5 on a sense of morals and readies 1 up. Then obviously he does the combo, gives it +2 damage and stun 2, and responds with Tira to ready up. Pretty decent stuff there. Tira is pretty decent as someone. I think that response is pretty useful, for sure. Been able to commit her to gain that vitality and lose 1, and you just have to play a combo ability, and it seems fairly easy on the symbol she's got. Definitely a powerful character for sure against some of these lower life characters, because she can just get this damage running away. So at this point, obviously Scott then commits things like a Wandering Pirate and something else, readies up the other one. So he's mitigating the fact that this deadlock's going to hit him at some point, where he's obviously then, there we go. Then readies them up. So obviously did a check for Sense of Morals to ready up the Wandering Pirate, and then readied up something else. So he's doing a lot of stuff to mitigate the fact that only allowed that damage from the deadlock combo to obviously give him 1 speed. Scott obviously still has the option to potentially blow up some stuff with 1 more response, 1 more enhance I should say, to destroy a foundation. So does have a block for it though. So on a 5 low, needs a 8. Fairly easy with all his stuff he's got. Checks a 5, commits 3 of the face downs. Yeah, pretty solid play, and it's a full block there. Adam could still definitely go in for attacks, but with +3 to progression, it's going to start getting to that kind of risky turn. And he does pass. Now at this point now, he also doesn't build them as momentum, which is interesting. So obviously 22 cards left. Scott's at 10, so Scott's more likely going to cycle pretty soon. And he's just having another look at what he's got. So interesting stuff. Obviously you can stack the deck a wee bit and stuff, so it's probably best to keep some stuff that he's able to stack and then have some draw mechanics going off of his other attack, because obviously that attack when he gains life he can discard to draw and stuff like that. So pretty well set up for the idea of potentially being able to stack deck and draw more of these attacks and rotate them a lot better. Scott at this point though has a bit of an uphill battle. There's still a Beast Hunter in play, so he really can't. He has to kind of bait it out, I think, at this point. I don't think he's got a great option to not afford to force it into like play as such. That being said, I don't think we've seen another Beast Hunter, so there's a high chance Adam is actually only running 1 of them. So he is going for a moment of rest and passes turn. So interesting stuff. So I think at this point he's maybe trying to consolidate building up an attack run, but at the same time as well, with him only having like 4 cards left in deck, he's probably out of attacks at this point. He's probably going to have to hit maybe a cycle sooner than later. This will be interesting. Again, 7 health to Adam's 19. So Adam starts with the sense of morals. So this will be interesting to see what they do. I think they're having a wee bit of flickered connections there on speaking. Yeah, I think they're partially disconnecting on the chat. As I say, I think this happens more often than not, which is fair enough. We can work around it. So I think they're all back. Spear Ryu is the attack to be played. Checks it on a 4. Sense Morals doesn't add towards progressive. So again, you can look at the top card of his deck and he may discard it, or he may add it to the card pool, face up in any order and stuff like that. And he's got a combo in hands that he can't use just yet. So fairly decent. Obviously, it's the reason I say he can't use it just yet is that the top card could potentially be added to the pool and allow him to actually do that. So let's see what happens. So Scott lost 2 life on the attack being played using United Kingdom of Smash and drew a card. So Adam looks at the top card and he may discard it or add it to the pool in any order. And he chooses to discard it and it was a stop. Okay. So definitely a couple of setups. Obviously you can still do things like Tira to start chipping away that damage at Scott. At this point it's one of those ones where just the more attacks he can play and trigger off the combo enhances, the easier it is for him to just do Tira's enhance, committing herself to gain a vitality, lose the opponent loses one. This is very interesting stuff. This is definitely a tough one for Scott to deal with. But at the end of the day, we'll definitely has worked on a hefty lead in foundations. Probably an extra 3 or 4 on Adam. And has still perfect amount of defensive pieces, which is quite interesting. So he blows up a foundation, reveals the top card, and it is an ally. So he can build it. So -1/-1, then he builds a foundation. And -1/-1. So 1 card left. None. Is that a 1? I can't tell. I think there's 1 card left on top of his deck. But again, at -2/-2, this attack now goes down to a 3 mid for 1 damage. Obviously, he does the Tira commits herself, and pretty effectively is obviously not able to gain the vitality. But at the end of the day, Scott losing that 1 vitality is slowly getting there. And now he uses Confronting Jada and hits the damage now, so it's not even going to be doing any damage at all. So interesting stuff. Obviously the fact he's had to hit that Confronting Jada early is probably just to save him up the attack, save him a block I should say. So pretty interesting stuff there. Still has a Kirin Soul. Other than that, he can trigger Andy once more, and this will be interesting. This is just interesting to see what he ends up doing at this point. I think what they've just said. Yep, so I think that attack's just done. Now we'll see. I'm assuming he's got another attack ready to go. The only thing he's got to watch out for is if Adam can't put him away, he has to be able to kind of accumulate those attacks to be able to use Tira effectively. So let's see what he does. Again, as I say, I think they're having some chat issues, which is why there's a little bit of delay on the game. Just as I look at their kind of connections up top, yeah, it's a wee bit drastic at times. So it goes in for a good and evil, and passes after. Nice. So this is kind of coming to the wire. Scott reviews our United Kingdom Smash. So interesting stuff. Now it forces the cycle. So every so often the game does cycle for you. Sometimes I think sometimes you've got to actually like check the last card. I think sometimes for it to trigger off, but just removes the top 10. And pretty rough. I definitely seen a handful of attacks there, but at the end of the day, he's got the vast majority of his deck back with 32 cards there now, so he might be able to do a little bit more than he was in the last few turns there. So let's see what he does, because at the end of the day, Adam has a lot of cards out as well, and is holding an alright number of cards in hand, but doesn't have a lot of defensive pieces. Definitely has a good couple of reversals in his deck, so you can definitely block and reverse and try and do it that way. But Cowboy Battery, here we go. Ally multiple 1 ranged. So add the top card of your opponent's deck to the card pool face down, and you can destroy 1 asset and destroy 1 of your opponent's assets. So Adam doesn't have any assets, so ultimately it's going to really be for the idea of adding the top card of the deck to the card pool face down. Which it does. So interesting. So again, obviously clogs the pool by 1. We'll just have to see what you can then do with this, because at the end of the day, this attack can still hit for a wee bit. It's obviously 6 damage, 3 high, but if he gets that kind of speed going away, obviously Adam then loses a life, so that the next attack Scott will play has -1 to the difficulty, or -1 to check, so it makes it harder to play. So let's see what he does though, because at this point he can obviously blow up some foundations. It just depends what he does. Obviously he has to really rely on Skull Fortress at this point, as he doesn't have any Shadow of the Cowboys ready to go. So he flips and he's going to give it gauge 6. So this is interesting plays. This is interesting because obviously he's still got 2 Andes stacked. Obviously this game 2 has lasted a lot more considerable in time. So he's got 2 Andes stacked. If he gets the 3rd stacked, that's where the Salinka attacks will start to play a little bit more use for him for definite. So let's see what he does. Because as I say, Adam's got plenty of cards to pass a check as long as he's got a high. So Scott is going to blow up a foundation though. So he's going to blow up a foundation, respond with Skull Fortress 2. So he reveals it. We see if it's an ally. It is not an ally, but it does get built. And then he responds with Andy for +1/+1. That's a bit tough. At the end of the day, those Shadow of Cowboys are really pretty useful for him. Allow him so much advantage on blowing up stuff. So at this point, Adam then commits and gives it -1/-1. Fairly decent. And a non-character, yeah, it's fine. So yep, pretty solid stuff there. So we'll have to see what they do. And he's now going for a stop on the block step. So obviously he needs a 6, checks a 5, commits, or 7 sorry, commits 2 on the 5 check, and then Andy is now committed. So that's pretty rough. That's essentially turning off an attack run for Scott. That's pretty rough going. And a fairly decent block. Some point they'll probably remove it. I think they're just reading after what happens. Yeah, so they remove it, and then he will then take 3 damage. Does have a reversal though, which was fair enough. That's kind of what we assumed was going to happen. So it does have a reversal, and he has, yeah, this is possibly one of the best reversals in the game currently, as of going from this. It's simply down to the fact that discard 1 momentum, add 1 other card from your card pool, it stays in your face down, and after your opponent plays an attack, you just remove it. As a response, the fact he has like 2 momentum just kind of says, you're not really attacking. On top of the fact that as well he's still got a Beast Hunter. It's a fairly decent attack. Obviously he can do a few wee things, and Scott's going to block it because obviously it's lethal. But that's rough going. Obviously it's a 4, 5, 6, 7. And he's got a perfect amount of cards to pass. So that's rough. That's definitely a rough thing to have to deal with. And it's probably more than likely turned off Scott's turn. at this rate, for sure. Scott's at a point where he's just so he is going for an attack. So going for an attack, probably just to bait out that momentum, maybe, I guess. Because obviously this is where the Salinka attacks are pretty useful. It's got a combo on a ranged, which you can't actually use, which is a bit sad. But it is still 5 high for 3. And Adam has then missed that response, I believe. I don't know if they're then doing it. Are they going back to do it? Yeah. Yep. So it gets removed. As I say, I can't hear the chat, so we don't know how fast they're doing response windows and stuff. It looked as if looked a wee bit questionable, but still, it plays it. So needs a 5, 6, 7, commits 2, then after an attack's played, he gets his response, gives it that one. Yeah, so he gives it that, and then Adam has his response. Which at this point I feel as if I'm not too sure if they're doing it or not. That again, though, they might be disconnecting with their connections being a bit wonky. Right, so Adam passed it on the... Yeah, so he does that. I could add one other card to pay cost. So yeah, he could only do it once. Fairly decent. Scott's worked around it. It's the Beast Hunter I'm looking at, sorry. So he still has the Beast Hunter, which is something that he could potentially trigger on future attacks. If Scott tries to just go through for it now. That's what I was looking for. I knew there was something. I was like, there's 2 things he has to look for. So interesting, we'll see what he does. Obviously Beast Hunter will only be able to trigger if the second or greater copy's played. But this attack in itself can definitely do some heavy damage. So they're pointing at something. So the highlighted Scarlet Meteor, I think he was just confused to what he was doing there. Not too sure. So he does pop the asset as well. So he's going to give it 8 damage. So here we go. So it's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So a lot of damage. 14 damage so far at a 7 high. Definitely a few options to potentially... In fact, no, because Andy's tapped. So, try to think if there's any options for speed. I don't think there is. Which is kind of rough that there's no other kind of speed outlet. But 7 high is still fairly decent, let's be honest. So he does have a block. So on a 7, 8, 9, 10, checks a 3, needs to commit a handful. So it does commit 7 foundations and then takes 7. So here's the real question: does Scott bait out potentially the Beast Hunter? Or does he have hopefully another attack? If he's got another attack, he could potentially do it, depending on how this works out. This will be interesting now. This is out. He has a Dispelling Horn. So, I think Dispelling Horn might be a bit of a sealed fate for him if he gets the pass. So on a 4, 5, 6, 7, checks a 5, commits 3. That being said, Adam can respond now with a Bamboo Slice, Blind Slice. So Scott responds on the Carrying the Legacy, gives it the +1 damage, and then it gets removed because Adam's able to do that there. It gets removed. That's pretty rough. Now the real thing is, does Scott have another attack? This will be interesting. He's not past turn. Oh, that's rough. Just perfect amount of defensive pieces. I think definitely it's one of those ones as well where All the Mitsurugi stuff good, and the combos and stuff like that as well. And these kind of decks, this set of cards is just amazing. Like, honest to God, it's so good. Perfect amount of defensive pieces. Bamboo Slice will clear, and it's just a matter of what Scott can do in a defensive format with one Kirin Soul. Can obviously then confronting Jade or something. Interesting stuff. So we'll see what they do. Oh, they threw the clock away. That will probably spawn back in a second if they don't move it sometimes, but I will. So I think they're just playing on, I think is what they're saying as well. So here we go. They're moving the clock just so it doesn't spawn, because it'll end up here like racking the table. So Adam draws back up to 7. I'm pretty sure he just reviewed that Spiritual Connection, so pretty decent stuff. See what he gets out of it. Plenty of foundations. I mean, at the end of the day, Scott's got a fair few foundations. What's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 ready to go. So they're definitely not struggling on the foundation front this game. This is definitely showing as one of those. It's just a matter of who can put through the damage at this point. I think both of them have hit a bit of a stall phase as the game's developed, simply down to the fact that you see less and less attacks, especially with the amount they've been playing. So there was definitely some foundations eventually had to get picked up. So definitely one of those ones. So this will be quite interesting. So we'll see what they do. Obviously, again, I think the connections is a bit hit or miss, but for them chatting. Yeah, I think they're having issues with the connection on Discord for definite. So we'll just have to see. Hopefully it connects all back up in a second. Keep an eye on my chats as well. Rightio, so it goes in for a Soul Calibur first. So plays the asset Soul Calibur. That's going to be able to start sealing off some weapon attacks, and then plays in for a Shiai Ryukan. Obviously the combo's not going to work just yet. Cool. So let's see how this plays out. Obviously now that he's got, so he does obviously, Tira commits, gains a life, Scott loses a life. So Scott's down to 3. This is where it starts to get rough at this point now. So we'll have to see what Scott can do. Scott obviously still has a Kirin Soul, flips it, so the fact that he's flipped that kind of alerts us to the fact that he's probably not got a high block. That's pretty rough going. So he does manage to obviously give it -2 speed. And then, so I think he did the deadlock enhance, so he's going to add 1. Yeah, he adds 1 attack from the discard pile to hand. So we know he's going to get another attack. So this will be interesting stuff. Let's see. Obviously, can't do any of that. Yeah, again, as I say, this kind of alerts us to the fact that Scott might not have a high block. So it does add an Exploding Flame Roar to hand. Simply down to the fact it's just got all those combos. Yeah, pretty decent stuff there. Let's see what he does. So he destroys a foundation and gained a life. That's from Bird of Death. Is he confronting Jade in it? Okay. I mean, he's confronting Jade in it, but he already Kirin sold it. So I feel as if I've missed something. Okay, so he confronted Jade did it, so he didn't even have to block it, right? Okay. So cycle happened. Oh. So I have no idea what just happened there. I am going to assume that maybe Scott conceded.